This and That, episode 123. In this episode I'll be talking about the pestilence, some stuff from the Donbass, from the EU, and then Germany, and my favorite topic, the global revolution. And what a fuck, that you will just shake your head. It was a rough day today on the news front, certain aspects. I was very busy, and I'm sorry that I didn't do a news snippet this morning, but I just could not get through the stuff to check and to sort and to double check and then we had a rough load shedding schedule. So it was a bit complicated, and I must make sure of my facts because my favorite Nazi stalker has sent me a message that I am a liar, and I am lying to the people. So I've got that to cope with this. Let's start this one with this photograph. Now, in a photographic salon, this will be entered in the birds category, and it is competing with birds in flight. This is a very popular category in the salons, and there is usually vast numbers of entries, but it is also the most expensive category to compete in because the equipment that is needed is very expensive. This is a very good shot, and it is well framed, and I have spoken in the past and mentioned that there's certain images that will do well with a square crop, and here is a good indication of an image with a square crop. Now for me this shot would get an 8. There are other judges that will give it more. The reason why I will penalize this shot is if you look at the distance of the photograph from the tip of the beak of that bird to the edge, and then from the tip of the tail to the edge, this bird should have been moved backwards. If you split the image into thirds, that first third line should be around about at the shoulder of the bird. But that aside, it is a damn good shot. And then this one is just for some fun, just to have a laugh. Look at that, and I think all of us can today associate with that. Doctor, there's no umbilical cord. The new models are wireless. And then we get to the pestilence, and there's actually a lot of disturbing things that are coming out around that pestilence lately. I don't know where it's going to end, but it seems to me that the nooses are beginning to tighten. We have this bombshell report. Chinese study identifies COVID jabs sharply reduce the immunity function in mice after 4 shots. The media is silent. Now what did we expect? They are very silent, because most of them, if there should be a Nuremberg 2, most of them are going to end up there. And then there was this article, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, I call bullshit here. This is a map that shows you the pestilence cases in Africa, and you can look at the color schemes and so forth. But the thing that caught my eye immediately was that bright yellow spot in Lesotho, and then that little orange spot in Swaziland. And I asked myself this simple question. We are talking about a viral infection. How the flying fuck can Lesotho be yellow in the middle of that red South Africa And then someone made a comment and said, yeah, but it most probably they didn't test and what. And I call bullshit to that too. So, just some more bullshit. And then there was this, and I have spoken about this in previous. Jacinda Arden's salary is $470,000 per annum. She has been in the post for 5 years, and her net worth is an estimated $16,800,000. Am I missing something? I'm sure you're missing something. The same shit is true about Justin there in, in Canada. And there's a few others that is the same story there. This needs to be investigated. And then we get to the Donbass. I was actually quite amused when I read this one. The armed forces of Ukraine refuse to go to the sector of the front which is controlled by Wagner. Having learned about being sent to Bakhmut, the company commander went on sick leave, followed by the platoon commanders, doctors, and 60% of the personnel. I've asked it previously, if Wagner is doing so well there in the Ukraine, what the hell are the Ukraine going to do if the Russian army brings in 2 or 3 more composers? Okay, and then we get to this, and this was a speech that Putin made, I think 2 days ago. And as usual, the West don't pay attention when he talks. And it's very important that we listen to what this guy is saying when he talks. Vladimir Putin, everything we are doing today, including the special military operation, is an attempt to stop this war in Donbass. That's the point of our operation, and to protect our people who live in these territories. These are our historical territories. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia came to terms with this event. We could not help but react to what began to happen there. After the coup d'etat, when they began to actually exterminate people just because they considered themselves connected with Russian culture, Russian language and the traditions of their ancestors. We endured for a long time, tried to reach an agreement for a long time. As it turns out now, we were simply led by the nose, deceived. It's not the first time that this has happened. Nevertheless, we have done our best to resolve the situation by peaceful means. It is now clear that this was by definition impossible. The enemy was preparing to transfer the conflict into an acute hot phase. We had no choice but to do what we are doing now. And Lavrov mentioned at one of his interviews, and he said, the West must not bluff themselves and think they're going to manipulate some sort of a peace deal in the Ukraine. The Russian army will settle that problem in the Ukraine. And then there was this, I saw it earlier this morning, the Russian Orthodox Church issues an apocalyptic warning. Any attempts to destroy Russia could spell disaster for the entire world. The head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill, warned on Thursday. According to him, the root of the problem is that some madmen believe that Russia, which has powerful weapons and is populated by extremely strong people, who had never given in to an enemy and had always emerged victorious, could be defeated under the current circumstances. We pray to the Lord so that He enlightens those madmen and help them understand that any desire to destroy Russia will mean the end of the world. And I think this is a message that the West should take notice of. And then we get to the EU, and we started off with this little cartoon. And there you can see the EU, the arms as the sanctions, and they knot it up in all types of knots and asking the bear, why aren't you tired. And look at that American thing at the back there, hiding behind the ropes. And then there was this, and I cannot understand that the European people is not taking notice of it. EU has completely submitted to America's dictate in interest of global elite. I think there is no need to talk about it for a long time. The EU has completely submitted to the American dictate, and the hypothesis of the process, which has been maturing for several years, was the recent signing of a joint declaration of NATO and the European Union in January 10, which explicitly say that NATO and the EU have the task to use all political, economic, and military means in the interest of the golden billion, that is the global elite. It says so directly in the interest of their 1 billion citizens of NATO and the European Union. Everyone else, all other countries, according to Borrell, is a jungle in the way of a blooming garden. I feel sorry for them, but I actually don't feel sorry. I actually feel fuck all for them. They did this to themselves. And then there's this interesting thing from Poland. So Poland is fully fledged EU member, and this is how they can stop a third world scoundrels entering illegally. But for reasons unknown to mankind, the UK can't because of the EU court. I watched that video. Poles are not playing with those immigrants. They hose them right back up to that green roof thing. And there was a lot of Polish soldiers, fully armed, standing around here and sometimes came into view and so forth, but those water cannons were having a ball. And then there's this. What is the connection between the LGBTQ movement, the World Economic Forum, and Agenda 2030? Partnership for Global LGBTQ Equality. Now, this is a hell of a long article that I see. And as you can see there on the top, this is the first post out of 40. But the WEF is firmly behind this LGBTQ, what the fuck else numbers and letters you want to add onto it. And the primary reason for it is to destroy natural families. The WEF has no room for a healthy family. Nothing. They've got absolutely no use for a family, because they know that they cannot manipulate families as easily as they can manipulate these gender-confused fuckers. Then we get to Germany. This is quite disturbing. Germany has just declared that the war in Ukraine will end only once Russia is defeated. The declaration was made by the Chancellor Olaf Scholz. This will end up being the war that ended all wars. I cannot understand these people. How in the fucking world do they think it is going to be possible to defeat the biggest and largest nuclear power in the world? How? How are they going to do it? They're scrounging around now to try and get enough tanks for the Ukraine. The Russians are laughing at them. The Russians got very close to 4,000 tanks in operation. And that factory of theirs that are building the T-90s is pushing out just around 100 tanks a month. Here they are battling their asses off to try and get 100 tanks together for the Ukraine. And then we have this interesting post. San Francisco reparation parcel pitches $5 million each to blacks. $5 million to eligible long-time black residents. Where the hell are they going to get that money? This is the end stage of the American empire, and by extension the dollar-backed fiat money system. When an empire starts printing money and handing it out like candy, its fall is always not far behind. And I think that is very, very true. Then there is this news. The Bank of Russia starts setting official rates of the ruble against 9 more foreign currencies. The UAE dirham, Qatari rial, New Zealand dollar, Thai baht, Vietnamese dong, Indonesian rupiah, Serbian dinar, Georgian yari, Egyptian pound. The share of trade between Russia and China in national currencies has reached roughly half of turnover. Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov believes that the trade turnover between both countries will soon be calculated in rubles and yuan, not in dollars. The trade turnover broke a record in 2022. It reached around $200 billion. China's holding of US treasuries have been in a free fall in recent months. Now, it is interesting. You must take note of these things. This is the stuff that is actually going to change our world, not the war in Ukraine. These things. I find it quite interesting that they have included the Serbian dinar. I wonder why. And then this sentence should make people sit up straight. China's holdings of US treasuries have been in a free fall in recent months. And the reality is, the money that China is pulling out of those treasuries, those bonds, there's nobody else that is moving in there, because the world has seen how the Americans and the Europeans, how easily they can steal a country's foreign assets. But let's see where this goes. And then there's some more. South Africa's Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor told Sputnik that BRICS economies wants to find a way of bypassing the dollar to create a fairer payment system that would not be skewed toward wealthier countries. The system currently in place tend to privilege very wealthy countries and tend to be really a challenge for countries such as ourselves. She also argued that South Africa warned the US that the bill seeking to counter Russia's malign activities in Africa violate international laws. The legislation is designed to hold African governments accountable for aiding Russia. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there is a transition to settlements in national currencies. This process is not fast, but it is underway and is gaining momentum. Russia is planning a second summit with Africa this year at the end of July in St. Petersburg, and they are preparing documents to reconfigure the mechanism of interaction in the face of sanctions and threats. Well, I'm telling you, we must pay close attention to these things. These are the things that are going to change our world. And then there was this interesting thing that I saw. You can stop the video if you want to look more carefully at it. But look at the dollar value. Purchasing power of $1. It started off, it's $26, and it is now on par. So way back, your $1 could actually buy $26 worth of stuff. The American dollar is fucked. And then here is Naledi Pandor. The US anti-Russia bill totally unwarranted. The US should scrap its countering malign Russian activities in Africa bill because the legislation is at odds with international law, South African Foreign Minister Naledi Pandor said on Wednesday. In an interview with the news outlet Sputnik, Pandor stated that Washington's bill should really be killed because it's totally unwarranted. She added that South African officials have made this clear to their US counterparts. South Africa has already voiced concerns about the proposed legislation. In September, President Cyril Ramaphosa warned that Africans should not be punished for their historic non-aligned position amid the Ukraine conflict. I think it will harm Africa and marginalize the content, he said at the time. And I am actually quite impressed with Naledi. First she told Blinken to pack his bags and fuck off. And now listen to her. Look, she may look like a direct second cousin to Homo Naledi, but still, this woman is not stupid. She's one of the brighter ones in the ANC. And yeah, this is just some information for you to look at and think about. Countries without a Rothschild central bank. Just a very few. Very few. But I have got a suspicion this picture is also going to change. Putin is busy destroying the New World Order and the globalists. The WEF is falling. It's done. Look how many people didn't attend today, this year. And if in the past it was a prestigious event, now most people are making jokes of the people that go there, and the speeches and so is absolute. And then we have this on the health issues. Gotta love an expert. Now, in 2019, they say, 1 egg a day lowers your risk of type 2 diabetes. Controversial study says it promotes fatty acids that protect you from the disease. That was in 2019. And then in 2020, eating just 1 egg a day increases your risk of diabetes by 60%, study warns. Look at that shit. And that is how they get away with all their bullshit. And then we get to that what a fuck moment, and you really have to look at this image. I have M-cup breasts, Americans treat me like a piece of meat. For fuck's sakes. What the hell do you want to do with cans like that? That is, as far as I'm concerned, the most ugly thing that I have seen today. I'm a guy that liked a girl with good breasts. But for this, what the hell is that? It's a true, what the fuck is that? This is madness, but there are stupid women that do this to themselves. And then afterwards they bitch about all types of things. Society is not treating them well, and they've got health issues and back problems and knee problems and who knows. In any case, on that busty note, please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. You may have a friend or two that would like to see this image. Have a great evening. And actually, you're going to have a great day, because this will be published tomorrow morning.